Okay, so Tom, could you tell me something about what conditional cash transfers are and what idea they are based on?
Yes, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Tom de Veer. I'm director of a small foundation in the Netherlands called Connect International. And we are working in developing countries, mainly in Tanzania, Zambia and Mozambique, where we work with villages and we try to stimulate the village development in general, and with a focus on water and sanitation, especially what we call low-cost solutions. You should think of different techniques for hand drilling, locally produced hand pumps and such issues, also latrines and all kinds of solutions for water and sanitation that are affordable to people and that people can finance themselves. What we have seen is that when we train local companies, that often they have a difficulty because the market is very limited, even though those solutions are very cheap and affordable for people. Still, people find it difficult to buy them because they can't get all the money at once that they need for it. And even if we work on what we call low-cost microcredits, so these are credits that have a relatively low interest rate of about 7% per year, still it is often very difficult for poor people to pay for it. Now, the idea is to introduce, beside these activities that we execute, also a conditional cash transfer. And what is a conditional cash transfer? That is an amount of money that you give to each family, and especially to the female heads of household. And the idea behind it is that they sign a contract for that, and that they will fulfill the conditions in these contracts. Now, the conditions can include such issues as that they commit themselves to organize water and sanitation for themselves, that they make sure that everybody sleeps under a mosquito net, that the children go to school, and probably also an incentive for those families that remain with few children. They will get a little bit extra to stimulate smaller families.
Okay, thank you. And what is the idea? Are they acquiring these products through local markets, or how does that work?
Well, of course we hope that as much as possible people will be able to buy the products they need to fulfill the conditions from local companies or in local shops. And that is also why we train local companies to produce a lot of these issues. And if that happens, then of course you will see that the local economy will be stimulated. What is important in this is that the cash transfer, the conditional cash transfer, will be probably about €10 per family per month, which is not enough for them to fulfill all these conditions. So they will have to work hard themselves also to be able to do that. And this will activate people to basically achieve the Millennium Goals at their household level. So people become very active to do so. It will stimulate the local economies, and it will also stimulate people to remain with smaller families. And especially if you continue with a cash transfer in the long run, people will also not need larger families for financial reasons anymore.
Okay, that sounds good. And can you give us an example of successful cash transfer projects?
Yeah, it sounds very innovative, and of course we often see people raising their eyebrows. Can this work in Africa, and are you going to give money to people? But this has been done already on a very, very large scale in South America, both in Mexico and in Brazil, where the governments of these countries are giving conditional cash transfers to poor families to be able to send their children to school. And the result of this is not only that in these both countries children are attending massively now a primary school, but also, and that is interesting because the government doesn't pay for that, is that once these children have completed the primary school, that an effect is that there's also a very large influx in secondary school. And this was not foreseen, so the effects are even bigger than they had hoped for.
Okay, and how do you think Connect International can apply these projects within Africa?
Yeah, that's a good question. In Africa, there are already a number of relatively small cash transfer programs. They are usually what we call unconditional cash transfer programs, and even with unconditional cash transfer programs, it has been found that people spend money on average very, very wisely. Now, if you attach the conditional aspect to it, we expect that even more effect will be realized, that people really use this money to come to real good improvements in their households, and that they will do so very seriously. Now, Connect International wants to do what we call a pilot program, a small-scale pilot program, reaching about 1,000 families in a number of villages, probably in Mozambique. And we expect to be able to prove the success of such a program, so that it is a very cost-effective way to assist people to achieve these Millennium Development Goals very rapidly and structurally, and that it will also enhance the local economy. And we hope that through the experience we can build up all the tools that we need for such a program, like software you need for it. You need to have training programs for those people who have to implement these programs. And that later, if, for instance, the government of Mozambique would say, okay, this is interesting and we would like to do this countrywide, for instance, with support of the World Bank, that we are able to train the government, but also involve local NGOs and local companies to fulfill their role in a proper way in such a larger scale setup.
Right, that sounds very good, but can you tell us something also about the potential problems and pitfalls that come with this approach?
Yeah, that's it has been found in the programs that I mentioned, and also some of the unconditional cash transfer programs in Africa, that this needs a very proper setup. That's also why we want to work on it, to be able later in the scaling up phase to make sure that this is done properly. If it's not properly managed, for instance, if there's not a proper audit system that controls if people are really fulfilling the conditions, and through which people can also be reduced on their conditional cash transfer if they are not sufficiently motivated to use the cash in a proper way, then such a program can be a complete failure. Also, if the setup of the program doesn't fit to what people feel as being a justified program, as a proper program that fulfills their wishes and their needs in a proper way, and which is also not in contrast to what they feel as justice. If you don't do that properly, then also a program can easily fail. So it should be really properly set up, and that is broadly found or broadly communicated also on the internet, that is probably the major challenge of these programs, that the quality of how they are set up and fit to the needs of the people is probably the main issue.
Okay, that introduces